what in the war of the worlds is going on in New Jersey and now apparently over the Capitol in DC, the whole Eastern Seaboard and other places with drones. Apparently, from what I'm hearing or getting some information on a couple different sources, not sure 100% how credible these things are, but the idea that nuclear payloads have been brought into the country, into particular cities. I'm assuming in New Jersey, where we're seeing most of the drone activity. But what it seems to be is that these drones are government assets, government technology being deployed in an effort to sniff out, to detect possible nuclear threats that have been smuggled into the country via whatever means. I believe the different kind of suitcases or the way they have been bought in, nuclear payload suitcase nukes that have been smuggled into the country already. You got John Kirby, the White House National Security official, secretary, security official saying a few things. If they pose no threat, then clearly, like, the government stance on this is they don't pose a threat. We don't know what they are, but they don't pose a threat. Really? How could you know that they don't pose a threat, but you're not sure what they are? Right? It's kind of, it's not, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. The government's keeping us in the dark. This is what they do. Look, time to talk podcast. Let's get into with these drone situation. I wasn't doing much on this. This has been news for the last week or two, maybe 3 weeks, with drones in New Jersey and all these different spottings. And, it's getting to a point of it's impossible not to talk about it. It's making headline news. It's making even legacy media is covering this. And, we'll get into one of the reasons why that might be in a minute. But it's making the rounds. It's all over the place. So, and I'm in New Jersey. I'm actually North New Jersey. So border New York City, New Jersey. And last night, my wife called me outside to look at the sky. Felt like an idiot going down there looking up. But I did. And sure enough, I see all sorts of weird activity, lights and all sorts of rotating, like in different radiuses and things happening. And it is kind of, at some point, it's creepy. But let's get into what this possibly could be. I want to look at, first of all, is anyone watching this? Have you guys seen drones? Like, where do you live? Have you seen anything? Oh, that's not a drone. What is that? Oh, that's a probe droid. Hold on. All right. Drones, these things flying in the sky. Some people are mistaking, of course people are mistaking now everything they see in the sky they think is some mysterious drone. But let's be honest, there's a lot of things that are flying above that are just natural aircraft and things that are taking place. I don't know if it's weather equipment or what's happening, but people are getting anxious about it. Trump is saying, shoot him down. Shoot him down. And he's even saying, look, our government doesn't know. Yeah, right. And there are other people who are saying, let's just shoot these things down. So there's all sorts of battle about between the federal government's right to defend and shoot things down versus the states, the sovereign states, and what particular actions they are able to take. But I want to play this clip. I want to talk about this because I saw this, I came across this, and I was like, this is interesting. One of the mayors from New Jersey, I believe Mayor of Belmore or Belleville, New Jersey, talking on Fox News about this. And I just want to, there's a couple of things that stand out right away. And this is where some of the information regarding the nuclear payloads and stuff.
Michael Melham is the mayor of Belleville, New Jersey. Now, when you walked up to set just moments ago, you said you were just briefed. What can you tell us?
On the way here, I was on the phone with my OEM team, and we now have guidance coming from the state. And that guidance does say two different things. First of all, if there is a downed drone in our vicinity, we are immediately to call the bomb squad of our county. And second, our fire department has been instructed to make sure they wear hazmat suits.
So if something falls out of the sky that people have seen, and some of these things are as big as an SUV, if that happens, you're to treat this more than a plane crash. It's treated like an attack on the homeland?
That is correct, because they're not quite sure if there's a payload or not. And that's what we were told during our briefing on Wednesday.
Wow. So look, you said that you were insulted by how the Pentagon and the White House, their messaging coming out. Tell me what you're hearing from them, and why doesn't it match what you were just told moments ago?
So we're being told that people in New Jersey must be crazy, that they're only seeing small aircraft. And that's just not the case. If you're on the ground in New Jersey, my residents are concerned, and they're quite alarmed because they have no idea what's hovering just over their houses.
Have you seen these?
It's definitely not small aircraft. I can tell you that. There are obvious, like I said, people will conflate, anything they see in the sky now. They'll just assume it's some sort of UFO, whatever they're calling them now, but or these drones. But there is obviously aircraft, and Newark Airport is not far from here. But again, I think there's a big difference between seeing like what I saw in the sky with my wife last night and seeing some of the video footage that other people have captured. And obviously it's making this much noise. It's not just a few people saw a couple of airplanes and are driving, blowing things out of proportion. It's obviously an issue here.
I have.
And how would you describe it?
They are definitely small aircraft. I mean, you got to understand, a drone is considered an aircraft because it's flying in unrestricted space or restricted space. So it's considered an aircraft. These do look like a small aircraft. There's no doubt about that. They don't look like the personal drones that we're used to seeing. Mm-hmm. But they're very large, very large.
All right, let me get to this. After several lawmakers have called for authorities to shoot down the drones, now residents say that they'll just have to take matters into their own hands if the government is refusing to act. A couple of social media posts representing that sentiment now. A good shotgun will fix that problem. Another semi-automatic 3-inch Magnum, 00 buck full shot. Let me ask you this, because also what you told me as you were sitting down, we had quite the conversation. There are several theories, and then some people based on high-level conversations, like our own New Jersey representative, Jeff Van Drew, Tony Gonzalez, congressman out of Texas, are saying they're having high-level conversations with law enforcement and also experts who are saying that there's a possibility that there's an Iranian mothership with drones. Now, you sat down and told me something even more disturbing.
Yeah, so what we're being told, we had an unprecedented briefing on Wednesday. I mean, 200 state mayors were all gathered together, and we learned exactly what the state of New Jersey learned, which is very little. But the thing that we did take away from that was that we were told very point blank that these drones are hovering over our critical infrastructure. Now, that's interesting because they're not doing any harm. They're just hovering over that. We're also told that there's no credible threat. When you start putting things together that they're telling us, critical infrastructure, no credible threat, they're unwilling to shoot them down. They're unwilling to do a temporary ban. And we can see them that they have lights on them. So something's not adding up here. It sounds like it might very well be our highest level government. It might be government assets that are being deployed as a countermeasure.
As a countermeasure. And so two things can be true. We know the timeline, according to Van Drew and others, matches when this so-called mothership, whatever it is, left Iran and appeared somewhere off our eastern seaboard. Now, if it were chock full of drones and it released those drones, that timeline fits, according to Van Drew and others. So if that's the case, of course, then we would put things in the sky because the government would know. Look, it forces all of us to try to do some sort of calculation of why the government wouldn't just say something.
They have to speak. I mean, they have to be transparent. There's no doubt about that, because what else is happening is now conspiracy theories are starting to flood social media. What
happens if somebody shoots one of these down? How does the law look at that?
Well, we were advised to make sure that we tell our residents that that is not lawful. Drones are considered aircraft, and FAA, you cannot shoot an aircraft in New Jersey. So we're being advised to tell our residents not to shoot them down.
Are you worried?
We're concerned because, one, New Jersey can't act. We don't have the ability to take them out of the air.
Mayor Melham, thank you for being here. Appreciate it, and all the breaking news that you brought us to.
Let's talk about this mothership thing. Well, two things. I mean, he pointed out the idea that these are government assets being deployed in efforts for countermeasures. So the government should be making there's a couple of things. The government knows what these are, period. And they're not sharing the information. So does that scare you? Does that bother you? Is that a thing? Should we know? Do we need to know everything? No, I don't think we need to know everything. But I think when it reaches this status, it would be nice to have some sort of answer. Now, in the interest of protecting the citizens of New Jersey, New York, and other states on the Eastern Seaboard here, I guess, yeah, you also don't want to do things that are going to alarm everybody into the state of panic. So I kind of get that. But when you put out contradictory information, like, we know what it is, don't worry, they're not a threat, but we don't know what they are. You shouldn't say we don't know what they are. You should say we know what they are. They're government operations. We are currently conducting. So, I mean, they could come up with all sorts of excuses or cover-up stories, to basically say we're doing something, but we really can't tell you. Shh. That would be better than saying we don't know what they are, but they're not a threat, because that's contradictory. That doesn't make any sense. Now, this also could be something where it's a psyop. It's one of these situations where this is being done. This is being purposely executed as a psyop, where all these people now are looking at and being distracted by this particular drone situation. This is the biggest news story. This is probably why it would make it to legacy news, and they would cover it as their first story on their opening morning shows and such, because it's a distraction to keep us occupied and away from a whole lot of other real things that may be happening geopolitically, different things behind the scenes, things that are happening within our country. We got this transition to Trump's presidency coming up soon. Next month, we've got so many things happening. We've got this constant push for Israel to continue to wipe out brown people in Gaza. You've got multiple things happening between Syria and the former Assad being out of the way and our infrastructure being in place there now. And we have consistent situation with Ukraine and Russia, and we're worried about this and worried about that, and all sorts of things are happening, and people are talking about drones. This is what they want you to focus on. And they do this effectively so they can pretty much do what they want, right? They did this in 9/11, right? Let's go back to some recent examples. 9/11, where they convince everyone, oh, terrorists, we got to get the terrorists. We got to get Saddam Hussein in Iraq because they were responsible. Mind you, they had nothing to do with 9/11, but we had that all in the works for a long time anyway, to go over there and to take Iraq and probably, I think, 6 or 7 other Middle Eastern countries. We were looking to do regime change and to do all sorts of structuring over there, manipulate things in the Middle East. I digress a little bit, but the point is, when you got everybody saying, hey, 9/11 was terrible, which it was for us Americans, especially us New Yorkers, like, yeah, we want to fight the terrorists, want to get the terrorists. Whoever did this, we want to get them. So we all rallied together, and we also, at the same point, simultaneously, we give up our rights. So you have the Patriot Act comes into place. So anything in the interest of protecting citizens and making us safer from the terrorists, we're willing to give up our rights. Surveillance is okay, no big deal. You can arrest people, do whatever you want. We don't care. It's all in the interest of saving us from the terrorists. So these operations, these things happen in order to provide some sort of government control over the people in the interest of the people. Same thing happened with the recent pandemic, right? In the interest of the people, we're going to have to do these things. You're going to have to lose this particular rights. And all these different things are happening. And it's all in the interest of protecting you. And people get together and they approve these government measures as long as they feel that somehow it's a safeguard for them. It's going to protect you. That's how the government does things. It's not this Orwellian 1984 thing where they're going to come in the streets with guns and black leather jackets and force you to do things. No, they just basically tell you politely, through legacy media usually, that, hey, we're here to protect you. The reason we're doing these things are for your interest and for the safety of America. So this whole particular thing with this drone thing could be just another orchestrated event by the government in an effort to get us at some point in the next few weeks, next couple of months, to get us all feeling a certain way and feeling scared and fearful, so that we essentially give up more rights to the government, or we adhere to more of their rules and restrictions and surveillance state, right? That's what this could be. I'm just theorizing here. I'm just speculating. I don't know. And that's the problem. That's what adds to all of this anxiety, the idea that we don't know what's going on. We're not sure. The government doesn't really tell us everything. That's a really spooky situation to be in. That's a bad situation to be in. I will keep doing updates on this. I keep looking. I don't know what to update, what not to update. It's like the Diddy thing. But this is just out of hand as far as how many sightings there are of these things and the fact that there's no real answers. There was a U.S. House committee hearing, a state of the emergency, where all these lawmakers got together and officials in New Jersey state and such, talking about all this and the different threats and what the budget is for this, there's also the whole Iranian thing. I didn't even talk about that yet. The whole Iranian mothership thing, which I thought was interesting, but New Jersey drones not from Iranian mothership. Apparently, this is what the Pentagon is saying, right? A spate of mysterious drone sightings in the U.S. are not the work of an Iranian mothership lurking off the East Coast, the Pentagon says. Dozens of drones have been spotted across New Jersey in recent weeks, including near sensitive military locations in the state and close to President-elect Donald Trump's golf course in the town of Bedminster. U.S. Congressman Jeff Van Drew claimed he had heard from high sources that the flying objects were tied to Iran. Well, of course, we know they would try to tie it to Iran, the same way they tried to tie the assassination attempts to Trump to Iran. You have to first know, to even continue in the conversation and to actually assess all of this, you have to know that the current thing, the game plan, is to go after Iran. We've been trying to fight with Iran for a long time. There are plenty of warmongering people in this current administration who are looking to do the same, and probably some within the incoming Trump administration that want to also do the same. We're just basically hoping that Trump continues with some anti-war thing and is not going to let it happen. I don't think he really can make that decision, but we are actively looking to go to war with Iran. So that's where that came from when Jeff Van Drew, it was Iranian mothership. A mothership? Like, what does that look like? Off the coast on the Eastern Seaboard, there's a mothership and it's launching drones? This is some sci-fi, crazy, weird stuff, man. I mean, this is out of hand. And it just adds to all the other things that are driving Americans crazy right now. Transition of government with Donald Trump coming in office, multiple wars happening in the Middle East, genocide taking place in the Middle East, the economy, eggs still cost $12.99 a dozen, whatever it is, depending on where you are. The border crisis, again, some of this being tied to the border crisis and Iran working with drug cartels in Mexico, and somehow this is related to that as well, and using this drone technology somehow. It's overwhelming, keeping up with it all. I'm here, Time to Talk podcast. I'll talk about these things. Subscribe. I truly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. We're growing. Like the video. If you want to hear more about this stuff and want to hear my take on some of this, I hope to provide some sort of insight, or at least my take on certain things, as opposed to just reading you the actual news, because I'm fearful and I don't know anything, just like you guys. Like I'm here, I talk about it, I have a channel, but I'm not an expert on anything. I don't know the answers to all this, and I certainly have no idea. So I'm learning, and I'm dealing with these things equally as all my fellow citizens and the people who watch the channel. The people who watch and have subscribed to Ray, I truly appreciate you being here. Again, like the video on the way out. I'll see you in the next Time to Talk podcast. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this, where these drones are coming from, what do you think it is, what theory do you have? Have you seen them yourself? Where do you live? And let me know how that goes. See you in the next one. Peace.